Hey, up!
If you're into mountain bikes, then you may or may not be familiar or experienced in the outdoors. For me, leaving the steep, rooty, rock-clad valley side of Warncliffe Woods has been pretty chuffing rare over the last 18 months. But all that is about to change, as the VALLEY MTB are about to embark on probably the stupidest and most epic thing we've ever done on a bike. On the ascent to hell.
Is that it, Tommy?
Or particularly Helvellyn.
We're going the wrong way.
Helvellyn is in fact the third highest mountain in England and is located in the Lake District. The route we are taking is what gives this expedition its madness and its magnitude. Bearing in mind the weather was misty, wet and windy, I wasn't even sure we were going up. But we'd come all this way, and after wisely deciding to call off an attempt at Helvellyn in 2018 in Arctic conditions, two of us had unfinished business and were keen to see it through. Using the app for OS Maps, we chose a route that takes you up Swirral Edge from Patterdale near Glen Ridding, over the ridge up to Helvellyn, and circle round and down Styx Pass, back to where we started. This is a quick route compared to some others, which should only take a few hours, but it does get a bit intense, as we're about to find out. Our overall ride should give us approximately 3,000 foot of elevation, which we're pacing out with plenty of short stops to gather the lads and maintain a good level of energy before it was time to get out of the saddle and hike a bike for what could be the remainder of the climb in the struggle to the mountain top. And hauling your bike up on your back can be tricky, as some of us were finding out.
Grab fork at bottom and grab back end at bike and just put it straight up back of your head and rest it on back of your neck. Yeah, that's it. Not right up there, more down like on crank nearly. Once you're back and let it go right back.
Once we got that figured out, it wasn't that bad to push. Then 20 seconds later, back up, then back pushing, then back pedalling.
Yeah, no.
Fact is, there's no easy way to climb up. Just keep going.
Using too much energy already.
Approximately 1,500 feet up, and we hit what looked like a familiar sight for me and Chris from our last failed mission. Bearing in mind this climb is about 90% hiker bike, we were temporarily on the last ounce of high spirits when we realised the only one of us with an electric crotch rocket had steamed off with a 10-ton push iron on his shoulder while we were still trying to figure out how to carry ours. Nice one, Lev. But for now, everyone's happy as ever, because Johnny's only gone and brought some Kendal mint cake. Nice one.
You can go old fashioned and have a bit of Kendal mint cake.
Cheers, pal.
Kendal mint cake, anybody?
From then on, the elevation increased up the rocky path, which definitely got the legs pumping, but for those who had a bit of a struggle, the lads stayed in high spirits to gather the troops.
Last few steps, kid.
Come on, Jizz.
Don't leave me. Let's have it.
Yes.
The drainage channels. No energy for that one.
But the celebrations were soon sobered up as we made our way towards the Red Tarn along a temporary traverse. Unfortunately, the visibility was so low, we could not see the tarn.
Following it. Yeah.
Follow them contours, and that's when it gets right steep.
Yep.
Now at 2,300 feet up, this was one of the highest small lakes in the district. And it was formed when the glacier that carved out the eastern side of Helvellyn had melted.
Go on, baby. Good effort, Lev. How long do you have to carry it for? Anyone wants to try and clean this bit? We're rolling. Josh is feeling confident. Yes, no. Wind's getting up, definitely not. This is where it gets interesting, isn't it?
As we began our final climb up the north side of the Tarn, approaching Swirral Edge, we were unaware of how the fog actually gave us a false sense of security, like a fluffy cotton blanket that masked the fact we were pretty much as high as 6 Blackpool Towers. Mental.
It starts to get all jagged like that. Just like a sheer drop that side. Last time I couldn't even see. But it starts to get where there's no path.
As the narrow path started to fade away, tension was rising with each metre of climb. There turned out to be a split in the group at this point, with some of the eager lads up front and us lot further back. And currently unbeknown to us, Dan had hit a wall of fear and wasn't sure he could carry on up.
Move yours, Matt's got behind a minute. Where's Dan? Have you been up?
But it was a long way back down, and Helvellyn summit was only 100 metres away.
Has everyone got a vibe?
The only thing we could hope was that the fog would continue to mist over the scale of what we had left to do to avoid distraction from the last section of scrambling with our bikes in hand. Unlucky for Dan, the wind cleared the fog at the exact time as he went up front to see the other lot, and although I didn't get the footage, it would have looked like this, or even this, and he ended up feeling 10 times worse. Lucky for us, the P brothers had it all in hand, with some negotiation tactics to get Dan safely up the rest of the way. Only problem was, they had to leave 3 bikes to do it, which still needed fetching. Once we figured out the best way to get up seemed to be the low side of the ridge, it was finally my turn to go. Stupidly, I'd hung back to swap GoPros as the Hero 6 had frozen, and it was all down to the little old session duct taped to my chest mount to capture the daftest thing we've ever done on a mountain bike. This section of jagged rocks is the steepest and most treacherous part of the climb up Swirral Edge to the top of Helvellyn, and known as the Fangs. And ironically, throughout the whole journey, this was the part where we were about to sink our teeth in hard. With one eye on the steep drop to the left that disappeared into a white abyss, it felt a little too close for comfort to carry the bike on your shoulders, but I had no choice. Any other way was impossible at certain points.
Where are you now, Danny? Are they at the top? Fucking hell. Matt, you want me to come where you are?
In front of me, Danny and Matt were working their way through some of the tricky bits when I began to reach them, and it looked like Matt was a little bit stuck.
You alright? What's up?
After a quick laugh, we knew we had to keep moving. It was pretty clear whatever was coming up was not gonna be easy.
Not that way.
Now I could see why they were struggling. With enough room to just put one foot in front of the other, I was holding the rocks to the right and the bike to the left, with no choice but to dangle it out over the edge. Made it. But could it be out of the frying pan
Not much to grab onto here, is there?
and into the fire? Because there was no way I were getting up here on my own.
Just trying to get up in it there.
Luckily, Matt had held back to give me a hand. By now the first few would surely be at the top, and we seemed to have a fair way to go.
Nice one. Take it, if you can get it a bit further, I'll just be able to like jump up without it being in my way. It's lack of footing here, isn't it? Right, leave it there and sit that. Hold it there. Nice one. Oh yes.
Far away now, but if that's where it is, straight up onto the ridge, left, a little scramble in you there.
Right,
Literally.
who's going back down? Just two of you?
Me How many bikes is there?
That's the right fuck of that little bit there.
There'll be your twos and Dan's, won't there?
We need somebody to help us up that bit, lads. I'd have thought so.
Well, we've got 3 bikes, so we're going to need somebody to come back with us.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a bit impossible that. Proper reality check on it once we got on here. All good spirits and that. Need someone else to go back for other bikes. Where? I mean, I know I'm same, to be fair.
Right, you'll get yours, Matt, you'll get yours, let me get up.
I'm just going to have a quick wait, I think.
You got that?
Yeah, it's alright, I'm behind it.
At this point the terrain became slightly harder to handle, with loose rock and soil that meant it was more of a crawl than a scramble.
Here, Matt. I don't know actually. Quite loose this.
How steep was it gonna get? The bikes didn't help at all, and there were still 3 abandoned ones to go back for.
Take your time, make sure your footing's right. It looks like it's quite loose up here, so go for it big one.
Then, it became clear we weren't far off.
Nice one.
With a few familiar faces that I hadn't seen for a short while, the fog was just as bad up here, the wind was blowing a gale, but it didn't matter. We were so close.
Just watch stanchions on them rocks. Not mine, this I meant. Nah. Go on, Matt, go a bit further up and I'll pass it up. You go above Chris now. Keep going.
A short while back, Andy and Johnny had passed us on the way back for their bikes, but they still needed at least one more. To be honest, at this point I wasn't in a massive rush to volunteer, but I'm sure it wasn't obvious.
What are you doing? Are you going down? You sure? Right, wait up here then. Go steady.
Lucky for me, Chris didn't hesitate and set off back to catch them up.
Just take your time where it's loose, man. I know. They've gone back for bikes, haven't they?
I know. How are they going to do it? 3 bikes?
3 people. He's going back.
Oh, is he going back?
I think so, yeah.
As glad as I was to be moments from the top, I'd waited back to give the last 3 a hand, which felt like an eternity for me and Joe as we stared into the fog below. Climbing this once was asking for trouble, but twice, one wrong move and it was game over. Then finally they all turned up safe and sound. Go on, Babby. We were finally off to join the rest and conquer this 3,000 foot mount.
Yeah.
And then, could it be? We'd chuffing made it!
Well done, mate. Yes! Nice one. Nice one.
Keep your mountain biking, they said. It'll be fun, they said. Right, boys. Woo!
Well done, Dan. Well done, mate. Nice one.
While we revelled in the ultimate glory and witnessed something that would stay in our memories forever, we realised it was -3 and looked pretty bleak, so we decided to crack on. As expected, the route was downhill, and I'd never been so happy to get back on the bike, but not far from the peak was another climb. gutted. The route along to Sticks Pass meant there were a few ups and downs. There were some aching faces and cramped legs, but we'd come too far to slow down. Thanks to Johnny and Chris's navigation, we found the right path through the misty mountains. Still hanging on, the old GoPro managed to last out. But at the top of the biggest downhill down the whole mountain, the worst had happened. I'd blown a tyre. In all the confusion, I didn't film any of it, but we had to move quickly. It was too cold and we were too tired to put a tube in, so we filled it with CO2 and hoped the sealant would do its job. Covering as much ground as possible, it was clear the air was escaping, but a quick top-up seemed to be enough to keep us rolling. But that wasn't the only issue. The descent was loose, sharp and filled with twists and turns, and riding at speed could catch you out. Still all in one piece, the descent felt like a race against time, and was mega fun nonetheless. A few loose turns and rough, rocky sections, the descent was pretty awesome. The fact that my tyre kept going down did spoil it a bit, but it was a race against time, so I had to go as fast as I could to make it down without any more stops.
Yes. Tyre up. Do.
We'd done it. The climate felt a lot more pleasant down here, so without a moment to waste, we went for a pint. Cheers, lads.
Cheers.
VALLEY MTB.
Cheers.
The best MTB club on top of the world ever. Thanks for watching, and if you're considering going up Swirl Edge to Helvellyn, don't take your bye. Subscribe to tune in next time, and of course to join the common struggles of a Midpack Rider. Nice one.